The story you're about to hear is a true account from a woman named Dana living just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the Rainbow Springs Hotel. Now, she had also sent me an account by a Redditor, Jimmy Saint 13, and his experience with the Rainbow Springs Hotel. She sent me part one. It's the history, backstory, and one freaked out DJ. So Jimmy Saint 13 writes, Francis J. Schrodel, who was the owner of Rainbow Springs Hotel, started his career in the early 1930s, founding the Schrodel Construction Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The company started just building houses, office buildings, nothing really big. After World War II, Schrodel began building apartment complexes all around southeastern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. In the late 1950s, after a long series of very successful projects, Schrodel was estimated to be worth between $20 and $40 million. This is when he purchased a large property that was formerly a hunting preserve in Mukwonago, Wisconsin. So this was all Native American land. Construction began immediately. December 31st, 1959, saw the grand opening gala and New Year's Eve party at Rainbow Springs Lodge, which would be the focal point of Rainbow Springs Country Club. The 1960s saw an explosion of growth at the country club, an 18-hole golf course, which was only closed in 2010, a second recreational lodge, a carnival street featuring many small shops and bars, a 90,000 square foot convention center, and the 750-room hotel were all under construction. In 1965, however, funds began to dry up. Friends of Schrodel's tried to get him to open the already finished parts of the complex to generate income to finish the rest, but he wouldn't have it. A friend was quoted saying he wanted a big grand opening of the entire complex like Wisconsin had never seen. He said Frank Sinatra would perform at the opening. He also turned down many financing and partnership offers. He was slightly paranoid with his business practices and did not want the possibility of someone who would later try to edge him out of the picture. Rainbow Springs was to be his success alone, his masterpiece. Between 1971 and 1973, a series of lawsuits and loan defaults had plagued Schrodel and his construction company. In late 1973, a last-ditch effort was made by Schrodel to secure a $15 million loan from a Chicago bank. When the money failed to materialize, Schrodel could not pay off the mortgages with M&I Bank he had used to finance the project. The entire property and everything on it at the time, just shy of 1,000 acres, became the property of M&I. The last time Schrodel was on the property was in 1974 when M&I Bank sent the Mukwonago sheriffs to evict him and his wife, who were still living in a private cabin on the property. It was reported that the last thing he said before leaving was, "If I can't open it, no one will." Francis J. Schrodel passed in 1976 at the age of 67. M&I Bank held on to the property from 1974 to 1985. During this time, many potential buyers showed up, and for various reasons, a sale never took place. One potential buyer, Cal-Am of California, offered to buy the property in 1977 for $4.8 million, even going as far as to place $1.2 million on a down payment. The rest of the money failed to show by a December deadline, and the sale was just discontinued. In 1985, the property was sold to two partner developer companies from Las Vegas. Plans to finish the resort and add a health spa never happened due to financial issues, and they were forced to sell the property again, but were unable to find any buyers. One of the two companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1990. The U.S. Bankruptcy Court gave the two owning companies 3 years to sell the resort. It was sold at auction in 1994 to the Ocala Group, the owning and managing company of the Ocala golf courses in Florida, for $4.2 million, despite being appraised at an estimated $30 million. Alan Fecker, one of the four members of the Ocala Group, was quoted as saying, "Just walking around the project and seeing how much foresight the builder had, I have so much admiration for him. The population wasn't here. He was 30 years ahead of his time. That's the only thing he did wrong." In 1996, one member dropped from the Ocala Group, leaving Fecker and his wife and brother-in-law to own the property as Rainbow Springs Golf Co. Inc. No construction or developments have been made. The only activity on the property has been the maintenance and management of the golf course. In 2002, a massive fire destroyed nearly 2/3 of the hotel, and no cause was ever determined and no injuries were ever reported. Today, the fate of the resort hangs in limbo. Rainbow Springs Golf Co. has made it apparent they have no intentions of selling the property, yet cannot keep the golf courses open. The state of Wisconsin has made multiple purchase offers, but have been turned down every time. Now let's hear from Dana and her strange occurrence at the Rainbow Springs Hotel during Halloween in the 90s. Welcome to Strange Occurrences, Abnormal Tales with a Gen X Twist. I am Rose Stone, also known as Miss Reish Life on all the socials, where I live a simply luxurious lifestyle on a budget. But today we talk about the strange, the macabre, the weird, the spooky, the creepy. It is spooky season, and I have Dana with me here from Wisconsin, who is going to tell us a real creepy story from the mid-90s. And you guys got to hear this, because back then, Gen X knows, Gen Jones know, elder millennials know, we didn't have cameras, we didn't have evidence. So people thought we were a little cuckoo when we told these stories sometimes, but we always wanted to hear them because everyone loves to be creeped out. Doesn't matter
Oh,
who
yeah.
you are. So, hey, Dana, what's up? How is it out
Hey.
there in the Midwest, first of all?
Well, today actually it's in the 90s, believe it or not.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
We were a little lower than that, but still hot.
yeah. And pretty soon we're gonna hit our fall, which is going to be beautiful. We get that same beautiful fall that you guys do. So,
Yeah,
but
we're lucky.
we're getting ready for spooky season here too. And it's a big deal for us, I'm sure, as big a deal as it is for you guys there and out in
Oh,
your
yeah, the
area.
beautiful change of leaves, which brings us to spooky season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we
Mm-hmm.
all love it the most, because
Yes.
everything is changing and getting ready to,
Mm-hmm.
go to sleep for the winter, and all the spookiness is coming out. The
Mm-hmm.
fog's rolling in, and
Mhm.
we're all getting ready for our haunted houses.
Yes. Yes, we are.
And this is where your story begins.
Yes,
So
it
let's all get creeped out by Dana's creepy story.
does. Sorry.
It's okay.
Um, so yes, back in the mid 90s, I grew up in a small town. Well, I didn't grow up in a small town, but we moved to a small town in Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin, my freshman year of high school. And that time of year, there was still literally the high school was across the street from a cornfield.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, farms and trees and everything. And lots of nothing to do for the high school kids. And one of the big things that we did do every year was really do up Halloween and the fall and the harvest. And there was right up the road from where we had bought our house, my parents had bought their house, was this um, place called Rainbow Springs. And it had a golf course, but it also had this really creepy over 700 room hotel. And all of course, in the midnight, we didn't have anything to do. Like you got in your friend's car and you drove around and you talked and you didn't do much of anything. We had no supervision. So what do you do? We tell each other creepy stories and you go out to the middle of nowhere. We would go to the middle of the field and we try to creep each other out. Well, there was all of these stories about how this place was haunted. And we would try to scare each other. Now, every Halloween, that hotel would get turned into a haunted house. And the reason it was turned into a haunted house is because this hotel was never finished.
Oh, that's creepy.
Never finished. Part of it was. The part of it was completely the plumbing was all done, the wiring was all in, the lobby was complete. It had an Olympic-sized swimming pool, all complete, never filled. The other half of the hotel was framed, nothing. Just framed.
Like just ghost hotel.
Just ghost hotel. Like you would walk in and it looked like you were walking into the lobby of a hotel, like a fancier hotel. And this started around in the 60s. A guy named, I'm trying to remember his name, Sh- Schradler, I believe his name was something like that. This was his dream. He built this. It was supposed to be this big convention center. It was a golf course and a big convention hall and this 700-room mega hotel that was going to bring people in. Mukwonago is not too far from Milwaukee in terms of drive times in the 60s when they were putting in all the freeways and things, right?
Right.
So, you bring people out in the lovely long weekend in the countryside, so to speak. And I know you're from an area where they did all those kinds of like resort type things.
Yes, I live in the Catskill Mountains,
Yeah.
which famously is the Dirty Dancing story.
So just
So yeah,
kind of like a weekend type of thing
yeah.
for
So
these.
this was this man's dream. He wanted
Yep.
to bring a beautiful resort to the
hmm
Midwest.
hmm
Sounds like a great idea.
It was. I thought it was a great idea. Everyone thought it was a great idea, but he never completed it. It was
Hmm.
never completed.
Now, was it financial? Was it a haunting, a
Yep.
curse?
Supposedly, now this is what I'm digging up. So supposedly this was never ever completed. Again, half of it totally done, the other half of it never done. He supposedly ran out of money
Okay,
and eventually the bank foreclosed on it. Now,
as they do.
he and his wife lived in a cabin on the property.
Oh,
And when they were being evicted, he supposedly said, if I can't finish it, no one will.
oh,
And that
now.
happened in the early 70s. So flash forward, now we're in the mid 90s and we're running through this half finished hotel. So nobody finished this thing in
Wow.
all this time. And there's rumors of ghosts. There's rumors of people breaking in to the hotel over these years and doing themselves in.
Were they any symbols on the
No,
walls?
no, actually, the security was actually pretty good in this hotel
Okay.
because for the building itself. Now, the golf course was operated. It had an owner. The building had an owner. There was always a thought process, even up into the 90s, of one day turning this over and operating it. So the building was being maintained. And remember, we're running haunted houses through. We're running through this hotel fine. So structurally, it's fine. So we're doing these haunted hotels. And this is a big thing. I mean, I'm talking line for an hour to get in to do this
Really?
hotel thing. Now, I was a theater kid in high school, and the theater
Same.
group and we got to go in and we got to be in the cast, so to speak, inside this hotel. Um, I was kind of a relief player, so if somebody needed a break, I was kind of going
Nice.
through and helping them out. Now, even though part of this hotel, and this the part of the hotel that did get finished was the area where we had set up the hotel, the haunted hotel. So imagine being able to have basically The Shining.
That is a wonderful image. Now I can see Jack Nicholson in my head and
Yeah,
Shelley Duvall
yeah,
and everybody
because
freaking out in the elevator.
oh, we
Red
didn't quite get
rum.
we didn't quite, but it's that kind of same eerie feeling. You're walking around an empty hotel and you know it's empty. So the electricity, although it had been set up, was never connected. So we're walking through and we've got flashlights. Okay.
So it's
Once those
just
fla-
dark. It's like a
it
cornfield, an
it's
old resort, and a bunch of teenagers with flashlights trying to scare everybody.
yeah. Well,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
In essence, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were in the middle of a wooded area, no cornfield. And then they had, cleared everything out, but middle of nowhere, we're in interior. Now I'm in an interior area. I'm in the basement. So there's no windows.
Oh my God.
And this basement had been built with like stone walls. So there's no light coming through. I'm in this room and now I'm 16 and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Just haunted. It's creepy. It's creepy. Whatever.
Right, right.
Um, and I'm
That's very
supposed
Gen
to,
X, whatever.
whatever. We are the whatever generation. Like, well, whatever. Nothing can really scare us, right? So in this room, and I'm supposed to jump out when the tour comes through and scare them. And in between groups, I can have my little flashlight on, right? Um, Timing wise, kind of know when they're coming through. You can kind of hear the screaming coming down. So I turn it off and I get my little position. And then out of just the corner of my left eye, I see this shining ball of light about 6 feet in the air, just kind of like hovering
Like an orb?
like an orb. Yeah, like an orb. Just like an orb. Just
Interesting.
kind of, it just kind of like came through the wall. And I kind of turn my head and I'm like, is there like something there? Is there like a reflection? And I'm going, there can't there can't be. There you don't know what to think. Okay.
Right. Especially
The
at
group
16.
Yeah, 16 in the middle of this creepy little room in this creepy little basement in this supposedly haunted hotel. And your mind tries to come up with any kind of rational explanation it can. And the group come, you hear the group, you're like, oh, and the group comes and you've got to do your thing. And then it's gone. And you convince yourself, like, okay, you know what? Playing tricks with my own head. So I don't say anything to anybody. Then I move to another little room. And in this one, I've got a little partner, and it's set up like you're walking through what would be like a freezer, like a meat freezer.
Okay.
Only the meat is human body parts.
Zombie dream.
Oh yes, and I'm supposed to chase the people with my meat cleavers, and my partner is supposed to like move the body parts so they look like they're moving on their own as the everyone's running through. Waiting, flashlights are off, and I look to my right this time, 6 feet in the air, two orbs this time. Just kind of,
Two.
just kind of there. No body, but about head height. Now I'm short. I'm 5'2", but 6 feet about head height would maybe be ish. And I kind of lean over and I poke the kid with me, and I'm like, hey, hey, and he looks over, he goes, yeah, it's the ghost, and he doesn't say anything else. I mean, can you get more Gen X than that? Like, yeah, it's the ghost.
Didn't phase him at all.
Didn't phase him at all. And we just finished the tour. Um, but it, I am not the only one who's reported
I
things
was gonna
being
ask.
seen or heard in that hotel. There are, I mean, there are lots of accounts of things being heard, footsteps. Um, the- I'm not the only person, I'm sure, whatever else. But here's the truly bookmarking the creepiest parts of all of this.
Hmm.
Hotel never opened.
Right.
All of those years, investors were coming in attempting to open it. Never opened. Eventually, they just kind of let it kind of go. In the early 2000s, the hotel
Hmm.
burned.
It
The
burned.
finished the finished side of the hotel started on fire.
Oh, the finished side.
The finished side of the hotel started on fire. It was, I think they said like 30 fire departments had to come in to control it.
Whoa. That was the man.
They never found the cause.
Well, you said that no electricity was hooked up, so it couldn't
No,
have been electrical.
they
And
never
you
found the
can't like
cause.
be a squatter in a lobby. People would see you. Or a
No, they
pool.
wouldn't have. They wouldn't have. If there was a squatter in the building, they probably wouldn't have been seen right away. They probably would have gotten away with it for a little while because it was tucked in the back.
Mm.
Now, they did run security and things through there, so it wasn't like they could have just been there forever. But even with that, the fire department, they did an investigation. They
Oh,
would have found evidence that somebody was
some
squatting. They
evidence.
would have found that evidence that the fire was started
Hmm.
intentionally. They didn't find any. There was no there was no storms in the area.
Wow.
And then eventually because they cut the building in half to keep the other half from going up in flames, the non-finished side. And eventually they just burned the rest of that to the ground too.
Really? Wow. I love stories like that have no explanation. And they give you just those little goosebumps, that little bit of chills, because you're like, how is that real?
It's it, it, it's that bumper to the end that it burned to the ground,
Mm.
and they couldn't find the cause.
That is so wild. And the name of this resort was
Rainbow Springs Hotel. Or
Rainbow
the Rainbow
Springs Hotel.
Springs. Rainbow Springs. hmm
And has anything since been put on the property?
Nope. They operated the golf course until 2015.
Oh, wow.
That's now unfortunately that been closed, but it's actually the state of Wisconsin now owns the land,
Mm.
and I guess they run it as a nature reserve. I believe it is now,
Oh,
so you
okay.
can still go out there and see it. I'm sure they have the area safe again.
Go
You
out there
go
with your
over there.
ghost
I haven't
detector.
been out there in a long time. Um, I did ask my niece, who is quite a bit younger than me. Hey, did you guys tell each other stories about the haunted hotel, the Rainbow Springs haunted hotel when you were younger? And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because it had burned down before. she
She had no idea.
she had no idea. No. But yeah, that was the haunted hotel. I mean, we talked about it. It was, you know, something that the area kid, we dare each other to go out there. We go
Yeah.
out there and smoke cigarettes. We
Creepier the
take a
better.
Ouija board. We take a Ouija boards.
Yeah. We did all that kind of stuff. That was like our entertainment, was summoning
hmm
demons and things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just it, who knows if the guy actually said, "If I can't finish it, no one will." But I mean,
It
several
adds.
groups
It
came
adds
in.
to the lore. It
Yes.
adds to the mystery, and it kind of makes sense with, the urban legend of the story, but it comes from truth. It's not even
hmm
like well, urban legends usually come from some sort of truth.
hmm Yeah, they do. They
They
do. I
really
mean,
do.
and it was his dream. It was, I mean, anything you can find that this was his dream. He wanted to open this resort. The the reason he ran out of money was because he refused to open it a little at a time. Like when he got finished, he wouldn't open and start operating and start bringing in the income to finish the. He was going to have a grand opening. He wanted Frank Sinatra to play
Uh-huh.
it. um, and
Oh,
you
he
know,
was, like, going full out, like, mid-century Rat
yep,
Pack,
he was.
wanted, like, a Vegas
Mhm.
kind of vibe, and
Absolutely.
here it's called the Borscht Belt area.
Yeah.
So that's where all the resorts were, and
Mhm.
there's a museum to it here now. So it sounds like you guys need a little museum to your haunted stuff out there and your good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Mukwonago has a couple other um, ghosty stories that are associated with it, but I think any small town in a wooded area is going to have that. But I
Yeah,
think big picture is we don't know. We just don't know. And I mean, there could be a very basic explanation that's very mundane for what I saw or didn't see or whatever happened that night. But there's no harm in letting myself be creeped out about it, is there?
exactly. And the great thing is these stories, especially from our time, we don't have evidence. We can't tell people, "Oh, look at my phone, this and this." So it really lives in you more than if you could prove it to someone because
Mhm.
it's really just very personal at that point.
Mhm.
But I mean, for me, I love hearing these stories. That's why I have this podcast to talk about strange things. And, it's just it's macabre and weird is an obsession of mine. What are you going to do?
Well, I think many of us have that same kind of
That
obsession.
fascination
Macabre.
with the unknown.
Yeah, that macabre and weird that I mean, again, hours waiting to come into that haunted house, and that part of the reason was because the rumors of it being haunted.
Yep.
Of course it was.
Yep.
Who wouldn't wanna go through the haunted hotel?
Exactly. But you have proof pretty much that it really is
I
from
mean,
your experience.
I saw something.
You saw something, so I'm gonna call it proof on strange occurrences because I can do that because it's my podcast.
She
I
has
am
proof.
allowed. The
She has proof.
self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist is allowed to say it was really haunted for entertainment purposes only, folks.
Entertainment purposes
And
only, my recollections are my own.
there you go, and I'm going with her recollections. So, with that, we are going to sign off for this episode. This was an awesome story. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dana.
you.
And we will catch you on the next episode. You guys love peace and hair grease.